Hey there, you military dogs. When we left off, things were beginning to get interesting, with Ed and Azumi facing off against Greed.
Move in.
Opening in Central, Mustang walks through the corridor of ominous faces, visualising his distrust of those around him. He goes to the Führer's office to find out he's not there. Meanwhile, we find Bradley and his men have stumbled across the Devil's Nest, in what we can only assume is a coincidence. Greed escapes Ed and Azumi, before running into Al and Margot, and the Führer himself, who wasted no time in attacking. Elsewhere,
Behold! You have just had the rare pleasure of witnessing the famous Armstrong statuary technique.
things aren't going well for Greed's men, who are being gunned down by the military. The fight between Armstrong and Rower is a brief foreshadowing for the next scene.
A former ally, eh?
Greed is no match for Bradley, and it's finally revealed that he too is a homunculus. Greed's men comes to his aid, for all the good it'll do them, but their sense of loyalty and their treatment of Al makes you want to root for them, and makes you think they aren't such a bad bunch. Greed's insinuation that they are possessions seems callous, but if he was really so bad, then his men wouldn't fight so hard for him. Margot makes the mistake of revealing her hiding place, and Bradley cuts her down. In this moment, a memory returns to Al. Like his brother, he was dragged through the portal, and for a moment, woke up seeing his brother's disgruntled face before waking. Bradley questions the boys on any previous dealings with Greed.
If you arranged a deal or shared any knowledge with him, then I'll execute both of you right now.
Back at the Curtis's house, Bradley offers Azumi a spot as a state alchemist, which she laughs off. But it's clear that this offer is only because he sees her as a potential sacrifice. Outside, Ed is cleaning Al's armour. A mention of Hughes catches Armstrong off guard,
Colonel Hughes,
and he warns Ed not to do anything rash. Al mentions he has seen the truth, but doesn't feel it helps. He may not know it yet, but this fundamentally changed him too. Finally, they turn their attention to the ongoing mystery of Greed and Bradley. Back in Central, we find the Führer in some secret place under the city. Greed gives a quick rundown of the players and even mentions Sloth, who we haven't seen yet.
Lust the lascivious. Hello, Gluttony the voracious. And Little Envy the jealous. And where is Sloth the indolent these days? Who's the new addition?
I am Wrath the Furious.
Father is revealed, and it appears to be the boy's father, Van Hohenheim. Greed refuses to work for him, and he meets his end. The result resembles the liquid form of a philosopher's stone. Bradley returns home to his wife and son, and the episode ends. This episode feels like the conclusion to a two-parter, setting up the players as we move into the second act, and boy is it a doozy. Starting with the Chimera, their fates is a shame. Though we haven't spent much time with them, they each seem to possess character and loyalty for a bunch of misfits.
I've got this obnoxious canine sense of loyalty.
The start of the episode showcases Armstrong's own character. Despite following Bradley into the fray, he'd prefer it not to end in bloodshed. It's worth noting that Greed has a sense of loyalty as well. He refers to killing them like stealing from him.
So killing my henchmen is the same as stealing from me, and I don't let people take what's mine.
But as he is the personification of greed, I would think he loves them in a warped way, as he loves his possessions. In this episode, we see the swift and ruthless assault by the military, proving again that Ed and Al may be on the wrong side. Now moving on to Al. In the case of Ed and Azumi, they'd each given a pound of flesh for their momentary glimpse behind the door. It stands to reason that Al losing his whole body, he should have seen more of the truth, especially now as it's bathed in blood. After all, alchemy requires equivalent exchange. But like with the others, the price seems high for what little information Al gained from getting those memories back. He sees his mum before being snapped away by a version of himself and seeing Ed from the body. This tells us something the boys haven't yet grasped. There was no way of bringing their mother back, because she'd passed away. In truth, it was Al's soul that had been taken to inhabit the makeshift body. Führer King Bradley. Wrath seems to be the ideal sin for his calm, collected demeanour. The mask of civility that he has worn through the series thus far only drops in glimpses, but here we see the first real taste of his fury while fighting Greed. Bradley dumps a little exposition on us too. We learnt previously that Ed and Al were potential sacrifices, but here Wrath confirms Azumi too is a candidate. We can clearly surmise that it has something to do with the breaking of the taboo, as it is something that they have in common. They are all sinners. Finally, let's talk about Father, who created the homunculus. Each one represents a deadly sin, and I wonder if that is by design. Obviously, they share traits that mimic their sins, but I wonder if making them sins was because Father knew that each time he created one, He was breaking a taboo, and this was his sin.